Welcome to Omron's Quick Tip videos. Today we're going to be showing you how to set up and program the Sysmac NX1P2 controller. Here is a wiring example for the NX1P2-9024DT1. That's 24 I/O, 14 in, and 10 out with PNP outputs. Here is the example of the hardware that is being used. I've opened up Sysmac Studio and I'm going to create a new project, and I'm going to call this NX1P2, and I'm going to select my controller NX1P2, and I'll select the actual device that I have as 9024DT1 and click create. I'll now go to configuration and go to my I/O map, and this shows me my inputs and outputs. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to right mouse click and select create device variable. And what this is going to do, it's going to create variables for my real world I/O so that I can use them in my PLC program. I'll now go to the CPU and I'll go to controller setup, built-in Ethernet IP, and this is where I set my IP address of my PLC. I'm going to leave it at default 192.168.250.1. I'll now go down to programming, data, global variables, and you can see that my variables for my real world I/O are already here. And I'm just going to click in there and then hit insert for my keyboard, and I'm going to type start latch, and then I'll hit insert again and I'll type in unlatch and insert again, and this time I'm going to put in turn on outputs, and instead of a bool or an individual bit, I'm going to select an array, and it's going to be an array of bools. And I have 10 outputs here, so I'm going to use those 10 outputs, and I'm just going to say from 0 to 9. I'm now going to go to my program 0 and select section 0, and I'm going to put in a contact here, and I'm going to make that the start latch, and I'll have that go to an output, and the output I'm going to select is the very first output of my controller, which is bit I/O output bit 0, and I'll put in a normally closed contact and call this one unlatch, and then I'll put in a normally open contact in parallel here, and that will be this bit I/O so that I can latch it, and then I'll add another rung below. I'll type R to add another rung, and I'll add a contact, and here I'm going to select turn on outputs, and I'm going to select array element number 1, and I'm going to have that go to my output, and I'm going to have that go to bit I/O output bit number 1. Now I want this to flash. When this output is on, I want this output bit to flash, and I'm going to do that by coming over to other, and I'm going to select a 1-second clock pulse. So I'll come over and grab a 1-second clock pulse and put that in here. I'm now ready to rebuild my controller just to verify that everything is good, and I rebuild it, And now I'll go to controller communications setup, and I've got a hub here, and I'll type in the IP address of my controller, 192.168.250.001. Check my communications, it's okay. Now I'll go online, and now I'll download to the controller. Click yes. And now I can test my program. Come over here and I'll turn on my start latch and turn it off. Notice my output is on. Make this a little bit bigger to see it. And I can come over here and unlatch it. And now I'll turn on bit number 1. And you can see that as long as bit number 1 is on, it's going to flash output bit number 1. And that is how to set up and program an NX1P.